Rhythm of Life Community Chorus. Welcome back to my office for another week of skill sessions. Um, I hope you all had a great holiday weekend. I know that many of us were not able to do the things that we probably would do during this time, but I think we're all getting by trying to find new ways to interact and that kind of stuff, which is kind of cool. Big challenge, but I hope you're well. This week, we're going to be talking about solfege, or how to just read notes. Like last week, we talked about sight reading as far as rhythm goes. Now we're going to add some pitches in. And real fast, I just want to share a quick anecdote about why I'm so passionate about this particular thing. When I was in high school, I was fairly involved in choir. We didn't learn a whole lot. We just sang a lot, which was fun, and I enjoyed it. But I always kind of fancied myself as a good chorister, and I thought I was really good at music and that kind of stuff. And then I remember learning about all-state choir, and there's a fairly rigorous audition process that you have to do to get into that. And I tried out, and I found out that I didn't have a system. Usually, we had an accompanist who would play our notes, and your ear would kind of match. Oh, you go up, sing up a little bit, and then listen. So I didn't really know how to read music, but I thought I did. And so I walked into that audition, they handed me a piece of paper, gave me my starting note and said, go for it. And I literally was like, like I didn't, I didn't have a system. So I was guessing, and I was very insecure and nervous. And it was perhaps the most embarrassing experience of my life up until now. Yeah, I think that still stands. It was demoralizing. It was awful. So then I got a new choir director who taught me about a thing called solfege, which I'm going to teach you about in a second. Most of you know what it is, at least a little bit. But I remember just being like, wow, I'm not very good at music. So I remember practicing solfege every day for the next 2 years for like several hours. And now it's become something that I live and die by, and I would have no idea how to read music if it wasn't for this system. So hopefully you can gain at least a little bit from this. So let me share my screen. I'm going to share. So this is what I'm talking about when I say solfege. It's the do, re, mi. Many of you have seen Sound of Music. But I'm going to show you how to use this in a practical and systematic way. So, and we've all sung the major scale in rehearsal, mostly to work on intonation. It really sharpens our ears, and also to unify vowel structure. But it can also be used to just for pitch recognition, and also to simply just read the music. These hand signs on the side, they're called the Kerwin hand signs. These can be supplementary to the solfege system. To me, it's more of the kinesthetic approach. Some of us are doers. And so this is helpful for that. The other way that I think of it is like fingerings for like an instrument, like clarinets have like the B flat fingering, and it's like, okay, or violinists, they're like, oh, this is exactly how F sharp feels. Our instrument is so abstract because we can't see it. So this kind of just gives us something to anchor onto. It's harder to use it first when you're using it for reading, just like last week we talked about conducting with rhythm. But I think that if you have the patience to use it right up front, it will help a lot. The number system, so there's another system that doesn't use solfege. If you want to use that, that's fine. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's a lot of value in using that. I'm not as comfortable with that, but if you're interested in learning more about that, let me know, and I can shoot you some resources or walk you through how to use that system. We're going to stick with this for now, but I do want to quickly show you. This is essentially the white keys on the piano if you're in C major, so C to C with no black keys. To incorporate all the black keys, there's these little half steps in between, and on the way up, we just add the E vowel. It's like do, di, re, re. On the way down, they're the same notes, but like li becomes te because it's T flat instead of la sharp. If that's confusing, don't worry about it. We'll talk about it another week, but it's all those little half steps. Do, di, re, mi, fa, fi. There is a chromatic number system as well. So again, if you want to learn about that, let me know. And then real fast, before we move on, what we're mostly going to be talking about today is stepwise motion. So if you look at this like a ladder, sometimes people call this the solfege or solfa ladder. You're just going from step to step. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. You're just going up one note. So just remember, that's what stepwise means. So let's go to sightreadingfactory.com, just as we did last week. Try it for free. And last week we did rhythm only. This week we're going to add voice. I'm going to choose, I'm going to choose bass. I'm a baritone, but I'm not as warmed up as I should be. So I might be singing a little bit lower. And we're going to start at level 1 just to keep it simple. And since last week we only talked about 4/4, we're going to do that. For level 1, your only options are C, G, and F. I think it's good to practice in all of them, but maybe start with one. I'm going to go random and start free play. So remember, as we talked about last week, you have your metronome up here. I'm going to actually put this down to 72 just to make it easier on us. Now, a lot of music does not start on do, but for the purposes of sight reading factory, I think levels 1 through 4 all start on do. So don't worry about it. In the future, we'll talk about how to read these key signatures, which will actually inform what solfege syllable we start on. But for right now, just pretend everything starts on do. Now we've got our metronome, which we talked about last week. We also have a tuning fork here, which will give us our starting pitch. We happen to be a G major, so it'll give us a G. That's our do. Okay, so I'm gonna just read through this once. Remember, it's all stepwise motion. So if you look here, do, re, mi, fa, we're never skipping notes. So it's gonna kind of help us. And in fact, because we don't do that, let's actually just sing the first 5 notes of our major scale. So it's gonna be do to sol, and then back down to do. And if you look here, we have do. We go all the way up to sol here, and all the way back down to do. We don't actually go above this sol. So that's why this warm-up is going to help us. Let's sing together. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. That's our do. Let's refresh the pitch just in case. Do, okay. And here we go. Do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do. Re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do. And remember, I held it out all 4 beats. Now, I skipped a lot of steps in there just for the sake of this. What I would do if I was you personally is I would practice, if you're using the number system we talked about last week or the tas and tts, like ta, 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 ta. If you want to just isolate the rhythm. The other thing that you can do is just speak the solfege without pitches. So you're like, okay, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do. I think that makes sense. Then again, if you think you missed an interval, you can always play it back and sing along and be like, oh, that's where I messed up. I'll kind of show how that works. Let me do one more in a different key. That's G major, G major. I said random. And, oh, there we go. F major. That's my do. Okay, let's start together. 2, and here we go. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, Notice I always hold that for the full 4 beats. And notice that I'm just stagger breathing as you would in choir. If you're more of a vocalist than I am, perhaps you will take that more seriously. For me, the point of this is to read the notes and rhythms. So I just breathe wherever I need to. Let's go back now and show you at a higher level. Let's go level 3 to keep it a little bit simple. So now we talked about stepwise motion. What we get next, the next step, because sometimes you're going to get do, la, sol, fa, la, ti, do, sol, fa, re, ti, sol, do. Music is not always one step to the next, right? But I don't want to just throw a whole bunch of skips and leaps at you. So a leap is where I go from like do to la, let's say. That's a big old leap. A skip is where we just simply skip the next step and go. So the most common one as we begin is going to be do, mi, sol, sol, mi, do, or even do, mi, sol, mi, do. You notice that it's all do, mi, sol, and that's just the one chord, or what's called the tonic triad. So as you're beginning, if it's not stepwise motion, it's oftentimes going to be skips of the one chord or the tonic triad. So just remember that, do, mi, and sol. Will you all sing that with me real fast? Go, do, mi, sol, mi, do. Here we go. Do, mi, sol, mi, do. I know you all sang that with me from the comfort of your living room. So this one, we're at level 3. Remember, we're just going to start with do, so C major. That's going to be our do. Now look, it's not all stepwise motion. We see some leaps here, or some skips, sorry. But look, do, do, mi, sol, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, mi, re, do, ti, do, mi, sol, la, sol, mi, re, mi, do. So you see, anytime that we have a skip, it's always going from do to mi to sol, sol to mi, or mi to do. So let's read this together. And that's still our do. And here we go. Do, do, mi, sol, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, mi, re, mi, re, do, ti, do, mi, sol, la, sol, mi, re, mi, do. So I hope that makes sense. Let's do it one more, just so you can see. Okay, got it. More demo. Oh, we're still in C major. Let's hope that. No, I went a little bit sharp. Oopsies. So let's just read this one. Do, do, mi, re, mi, sol, mi, fa, mi, do, 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 re, mi, sol, fa, mi, do, do. Sometimes that last note is hard to remember to hold out for 4 beats. So let's say I did this and I went, let's get our starting pitch. Do, mi, re, mi, sol. And I'm like, I'm not really sure. Mi, sol. Let's play it so I can hear myself. I'll sing the same thing so you can hear. Do, mi, re, mi, fa. Oh, so I was singing so I was actually singing fa. So that's how you can kind of assess yourself, which is helpful. So real fast, before we finish up, I know that's a lot, but you can practice slowly. Level 1. So a couple of do's and don'ts real fast, just things that I notice, is, small sessions, so shorter sessions. Practicing for 5-10 minutes a day is much better than practicing for 2 hours 1 day a week, right? So you have 5 minutes to kill? Boom, I'm gonna do 1 or 2 sight reading factory things. That's a really great way to practice, and you will just notice huge improvements. I'm not as good at this as I should be. I often cram, but when I started this, I practice small amounts a day. Something that I notice a lot of people do is they play the piano or even go straight to the playback, like that play button I pressed. Let's say I'm singing do, sol, right? I see that leap from do to sol. Let's say I sing do, sol, and I'm like, I don't know if that's right. Well, what a lot of people do is they'll go to the piano and go do, sol. Oh, I was wrong. But instead of singing do, sol, I'm not sure that's right. I go do, re, mi, fa. I think that's what I was. Oh, that's fa, so, do, fa, do, so. Oh, okay. So that's kind of how you can break it up. If you have a big leap and you're like, I'm not sure how to find that, just do, so, do, re, mi, fa, so, do, so. Oh, I was correct, right? Rather than just going to the piano and finding your answer. It's more self-discovery and you're gonna grow a lot faster. So don't play the piano, instead sing up to that leap. Keep it in tempo or conduct. I think what happens is, like that last exercise I did had eighth notes, quarter notes, half notes, and rests. I think what happens is we start going do, re, mi, so, mi. We get to that faster rhythm and we're like, oh gosh. So practice just the rhythm first. Go do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, sol, or whatever. Practice just the rhythm, or even just 1, 3, 4, 2, and 3. So kind of break it apart if you can, and then put it back together in certain ways. But try to keep the tempo consistent. So keep that metronome going, that kind of stuff. So don't slow down, speed up. So those are just some tips, ways to get started. Again, if you want to practice with somebody, the other thing that you can do, and this is what we do at school, is that you can go to like Zoom, let's say, just like I'm doing right now. I'm recording myself via Zoom. You can record yourself singing on Sight Reading Factory, send it to me any day of the week and be like, well, how is this going? And I am happy to listen to it and say, oh, that you're doing great. Make sure not to rush the eighth notes there. I think you sang a D instead of an E there, that kind of stuff. I'm happy to do that. So guided practice often helps. So I hope that helps. I love you all. I miss you. I hope to see some of you next week at our first socially distanced gathering. I'm just so freaking out. I'm excited to see your faces. This is Prof. Ballard signing off.